Test, test, test. Delegate Krizak, Delegate Krizak.
Good afternoon, everyone. The House General Laws, Professions and Occupations and Administrative Process Subcommittee, we've got a long title, will come to order. So before we get into hearing bills, we have a few kind of administrative actions that we need to take. First, we've got House Bill 1648. I think it's incredibly similar to a similar bill we're going to be hearing today by the same patron. So we are going to just need a motion to strike that bill from the, yes?
Should we take the roll?
Oh, that's a great, thank you, thank you. Yeah, and the subcommittees, it's not necessary, but I would love to see who's here. So yes, before we get into that business, let's go ahead and have the clerk open the roll. All right, the clerk will close the roll, and we have a quorum. Thank you all for being here. Okay.
I would move to strike.
All right, so now we're gonna. We heard a motion to strike HB 1648. It's been seconded. That is a recorded vote? So the clerk will open the roll. The clerk will close the roll. This bill is stricken. And then next, HB 1835, patroned by Delegate Wiley, is going to go by for the day. They're still working on that. So if we can have a motion to, or does that require, I don't even know if that requires a motion. I have to look at my thing, but do you want to make
Move
a
to
motion?
pass by for the day?
Yep, by for the day. Yeah, we do need a motion for that. Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, Delegate Wiley, that bill is by for the day. But we are going to hear from you for HB 1567.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, and thank you for helping me out on that other bill. So HB 1567 is in front of you. To give you some idea what's going on with this bill. This bill aims to streamline reporting and utilize already mandated auditing through the Auditor of Public Accounts. The bill allows VDP to include in its annual operational plan, report the most recent audit report for the Auditor of Public Account in lieu of the audited financial statements. It would codify this practice, which is included in the current biennial budget. Would improve efficiency and reduce costs by utilizing the work already performed by the Auditor of Public Accounts rather than requiring VDP to prepare financial statements and have them audited by the APA. Most importantly, this was a recommendation by the Audit Director in VDP's most recent audit by the APA. APA has confirmed with the Department of Accounts that they do not use VDP's financial statements. Instead, DOA relies on a template of financial information that VDP submits when they prepare the Commonwealth's financial statements. Pretty simple.
Any questions from the committee?
So, Madam Chair,
Delegate Krizak.
Delegate Wiley,
Yes, sir.
can you tell me what, if anything, that this may be replacing or duplicating? Is there any? Go ahead.
They currently get 2 audits per year, and it's basically redundant. It's overly being used, if you will. They already have a system set up, but it's just really it's not necessary. They already have the boots and what do you call it? This belts and suspenders already set up. It's just another layer that they don't need to use.
Madam Chair. Follow up. And I would assume in those 2 audits we haven't had any substantive findings or bad audit letters or anything. So there's no reason to really have these 2.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the bill? Anyone here in opposition? Do we have a motion?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. The bill report 7-0.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Y'all have a good day.
You too. Delegate Campbell, I have you next on the list, but since you're kind of with us, if you don't mind, I'll take the patrons that are maybe needing to be in other committees, since you are going to be with us, I hope, for the duration. So next, I'll call up Delegate Hayes for HB 1632.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the committee, you have before you House Bill 1632. First off, Madam Chair, I'd like to ask that there's a similar bill that we put forward, 1648.
Delegate, we got memo to go ahead and strike that from the
Yes.
docket, so that's been handled
Okay.
before, at the beginning of the meeting, but thank you.
Thank you so much. As mentioned, with House Bill 1648, the purpose for this legislation is to change the oversight of the Office of Data Governance and Analytics from the Office of the Secretary of the Administration to VITA. The bill directs the Chief Information Officer to obtain from VITA the office space and all other resources that they have to move that as they move to the Department of VITA. The Chief Data Officer position in 2023, the legislator gave the ODGA a role in workforce development data systems and repealed the sunset. In 2024, the legislature charged the Office of Data Governance with supporting data-informed outreach plans for veterans. And in sum, the Office of Data Governance is now a technical organization that operates and maintains infrastructure and data management in the open data portal and data trust. And pretty much we're just asking for efficiency's sake to move this position over to VITA.
Any questions from the committee? Anyone here to speak in favor of the bill?
Good afternoon. Joshua Hesslinger with the Virginia IT agency, VITA. But I'm here not only on behalf of VITA, but on behalf of the Office of Data Governance and Analytics, along with the Chief Data Officer, Ken File, and the administration as a whole, to thank Delegate Hayes for patroning this bill and to express our strong support for it. It is a simple administrative reorganization bill. It does not change the roles or functions of the office at all, but it's a good government measure. Because it doesn't make sense for the everyday functions of this office to remain in the governor's office, and it would not be efficient for the office itself to be its own small agency. VITA and the office already work very closely together. The office's employees are actually already physically at VITA's location, and so the solution in this bill of leaving the CDO in the governor's office but moving the rest of the office within VITA makes a lot of sense. So thank you, and we ask you support it. Thank you.
And is there anyone here in opposition? All right, committee operates by motion. It's been moved and seconded. The clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. The bill report 7-0. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you much, Madam Chair, members of the committee.
And next we have Delegate Bulova with 1707.
All right. Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you is House Bill 1707. What this bill does is update the Contractor Transaction Recovery Act for two reasons. First, to go ahead and keep up with inflation, and second, to increase consumer protections. The first part of the bill simply raises the monetary project limits for Class A, Class B, and Class C contract licensors to reflect modern economic conditions. And so the monetary limits haven't actually been adjusted since 2010. Hard to believe that was 15 years ago. Obviously, since then, inflation has dramatically changed. And so updating the limits just makes sure that the brackets reflects the reality out in the industry. The second part of the bill amends the application fee process to make it streamlined and a little bit fairer. Right now, everybody sends in a $25 registration fee. Usually when you send in a registration fee, it's an application fee, and in this case, it's a regulant fee. And so if they wind up reviewing it and they end up not granting you a regulation or being a regulant, they actually have to take the time and the energy to send you back that $25, which takes a lot of time and effort and actually far exceeds the $25 that you originally go ahead and send in. And so what this does is streamline the process by making it a true application fee. So it's just $25 that each person who's applying would go ahead and pay. And finally, as we know, most contractors are very honest. They are hardworking. They are doing the best they can to go ahead and put in really good quality contracts. However, there are some bad actors out there who either engage in unfair practices or dishonest conduct. And so that is exactly why we have the Virginia Contractors Transaction Recovery Fund. Again, those recovery amounts haven't been increased since 2010 as well. And so all this does is make sure that that consumer protection that we put in keeps up with inflation, and so it increases the amount that you can recover so that if somebody is harmed by a bad contractor who has left them holding the bag, that they can be made as much whole as possible. So, Madam Chair, that is the bill. This was brought to me by DPOR, and they're here to answer any technical questions if you have them.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Are there any questions from the members of the committee? Anyone here to speak in favor of the bill?
Madam Chair, Randy Grumbine, representing the Virginia Manufactured and Modular Housing Association. For all the reasons that the delegate expressed, we second that, and we'd also say this is a bill that helps the little guy. The contractors now that are doing the small jobs have a $10,000 cap, and this will increase that to allow them to still be a C contractor and perform the jobs that we need.
Oh, sorry.
Madam Chair, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association of Virginia. We also support the bill and thank the patron for bringing it. Thank you.
And any opposition? Seeing none, the committee operates by motion.
Move to report.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll, and the bill report 7-0. Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Chair,
Chair.
thank you very much.
All right, next we have Delegate Reed, 1737.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the subcommittee. Before you is House Bill 1737, and this is fairly simple. As most of you are probably aware, in the last month or so, the Department of Veteran Services launched the Virginia Veterans Network online portal to be able to bring together all of the information, to be able to provide services and information to veterans across the Commonwealth. What this does is this now puts this into code underneath the responsibilities of the Commissioner of the Veteran Services to ensure consistency of veterans information and access not only now but going forward. This, I think, is one of those items that highlights the thing that I've talked about a lot, where it's like we have an outstanding DVS that does a lot of really good things, but unfortunately many of our veterans just don't know that it exists. And this hopefully brings all of that information together and makes this part of the program of record going forward. So that's the gist of the bill, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate Reed. Any questions from the committee? All right. Anyone here to speak in favor of this bill?
Waddle on up here. Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Mary Taylor, and I'm the Director of Government Affairs for a veterans nonprofit organization called Combined Arms. We are the nation's premier closed-loop referral network for connecting veterans, active duty service members, and military families with essential social services through an innovative digital marketplace. Making the Virginia Veterans Network portal a program of record through House Bill 1737 is critical to provide the baby's pushing right into my lungs, is critical to provide stability and sustainability for veterans and their families. We strongly support this legislation as we are already successfully delivering this type of online portal through our Combined Arms technology platform. Since its launch on Veterans Day, November 11th, 2024, just 2 months ago, the Virginia Department of Veterans Services has served over 3,600 veterans and service members in Virginia. Ooh, there she goes. Sorry. She picks the worst times, including post 9/11 veterans who make up the majority of users, along with active duty, National Guard, and Reserve members on the Combined Arms platform. Our solution is particularly crucial for the 25% of users who are currently navigating VA benefit applications and the significant number that are seeking housing, education, and employment assistance. Our existing platform aligns perfectly with the bill's requirements for collecting, maintaining, and safely handling veterans' information while connecting them with vital resources. Passing this bill would solidify Virginia's lead in becoming the best state for veterans and military families, ensuring continued access to these essential services. Thank you for your time and consideration. Her timing is awful.
And is there any opposition to the bill? All right.
I move to report.
All right, moved and seconded. Clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll. Bill report 7-0. Thank you, Delegate Reed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the subcommittee.
And Delegate Gardner, you have HB 1758.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. House Bill 1758, sorry, I'm in another planet right now. Virginia is facing a rising housing shortage that disproportionately impacts lower income residents. At present, there's a shortfall between 100 and 200,000 residential units across the Commonwealth. Lower income residents spend more than 30% of their budget towards housing. 24% of all renters are low income tenants. House Bill 1758 seeks to prioritize the use of public land for affordable housing development in Virginia's urban and suburban areas. This legislation is hopeful that this legislation will leverage public land for affordable housing to ensure that new development can occur without the high land acquisition cost that drives up housing prices. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions from the committee? Delegate Fowler.
Delegate Gardner, I just have a question here. Delegate, microphone, sorry.
Oh, your mic needs to be on.
Sorry. Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate you. If one of these nonprofit organizations has basically control over a property for 180 days, I mean, would they be required to provide insurance and things like that in case something were to happen with the property?
Once they would have acquisition, it would be like acquiring any property, whether they bought it from a person or it's public land. Madam Chair, sorry.
Well, I guess if
Follow up,
yeah,
yes,
yes,
Delegate
Madam
Fowler?
Chair, but if it's, well, I guess then would the school, I guess the public property would still be in charge of maintaining and insuring this property for 180 days in? Is that the case?
Madam Chair, I'm not quite clear what the delegate is asking me. Could he restate his question?
Yes, ma'am. We're talking about providing 180 days exclusively for eligible organizations to do affordable housing. 180 days. So I guess my question is, and since this is now it's public property, who's insuring the property?
Madam Chair, It is my understanding that the property, once it is given to the organization, they're responsible for all of that. If they don't do what they need to do to develop it, then it would revert back to public.
And Delegate, I think you've got a friend there ready to add a little to that perhaps as well.
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Madam Chair, Andrew Clark.
Introduce yourself for the record as well.
Yep, Andrew Clark with the Home Builders Association. Delegate Fowler, I would say that it's my understanding that this is property that the locality currently owns, and is already surplus, is about to surplus, and says it is consistent and a good spot for additional housing. We'll pick anywhere in the city of Richmond where the demand or supply is short and demand is high. This would, as I understand it, locality designates, different developers or groups that they know are good actors, invested in the community, really, honest brokers, and give them the opportunity to purchase that property and redevelop it and put affordable housing, permanent, long-term affordable housing onto the ground. I think I kind of get what you're getting at. So this is city-owned or locality-owned property. And I'll give a perfect example. For the city of Richmond has a list of probably 1,000 some odd properties that they own, vacant lots, parcels, large tracts of land, parkland, and every couple months or a couple times a year, they'll actually publish a list and put those out to bid. So I believe the intent is to really kind of get that process moving, get some more of these parcels just out into the public saying, hey, this is where we want to see more housing.
Madam Chair.
Delegate Fowler, follow up.
So if I understand you correctly, then I guess the public property, will is basically ownership of it until the organization, I guess builds a house and then somebody acquires it at that point. Then is that correct?
Madam Chair, Delegate Fowler would say yes.
Thank you.
And Delegate Krizek has a question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And it's a little bit of a comment and a question. So, or a response to maybe Mr. Clark might want to come back up, but come on back up. So I think what this bill looks like, what it does is it's giving nonprofits that do housing a head start, 180-day head start. It's not giving them the title or it's just saying for the first 180 days before we go out to sell it at the market rate or whatever, we're going to allow the nonprofits to have first crack at it. If they can buy it or whatever, then they can, and it has to be for affordable housing. It looks like. Is that correct? Is that the way you read that?
Madam Chair, Delegate, I would say yes. And I think one of the challenges you see in localities, just with the workload they've got, looking at what we particularly liked about this bill was the motivation, the push to actually get that list published out there and keep it fresh instead of kind of every 10 years say, oh, I forgot about that, and updating it, making sure that that list is public and giving the opportunity to the nonprofits to develop it.
All right, any other questions from the committee? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of the bill? You spoke, you're in favor. Anyone in opposition to the bill?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Charles Quagliato from the Department of General Services. The department's opposed to this bill, and there are two parts to the bill. One deals with state surplus of property, one deals with local surplus of property. So for the state surplus of property, that falls to the department to maintain. And the way the bill is set up, the bill provides there's already an existing provision dealing with surplus property, where it's marketed to the localities and economic development of those localities for 180 days. This bill would then create another process, another separate 180 days after that where this bill would apply. So for those additional 180 days, it would fall on the department to maintain that property. There are some also logistical concerns about the way the bill is set up. This requires a department to determine what is affordable housing, whether the property is suitable for affordable housing. The department lacks that capacity. Perhaps the Department of Housing and Community Development might be a better partner, but the Department of General Services lacks that ability. The other, I'll say, problems with the bill contains a provision regarding a 40-year covenant that the property will be used for residential housing for 40 years. It's unclear what happens if the covenant's violated, what happens after that 40 years, whether or not the agency decides to, make market rates during those 40 years, what happens to the property. It doesn't really spell it out in there. The other problem is eligible organizations. The definition reads for any town, city, county. It doesn't define it to a locality. So you may be actually creating the problem where a county may want to develop land in a city area because being any eligible organizations. It doesn't specify to the locality. So you may find the county wanting to build affordable housing inside a city, or a city wanting to build affordable housing in a county. And those are just the problems with the bill. And that's why the administration is opposed. I'll say happy to work with the patron to see if we can get to a different position. But I think the bill's got some technical problems, and that's why it's opposed.
Madam Chair,
Delegate Krizek.
quick question, and I think your problems are because it's in the wrong agency. That's really where this stems from, because in housing, we know when we do these 40 years, the property would revert back to you, if you will, if they violate that. But that's really a housing. It really needs to be Department of Housing. I would like to ask a question to the delegate. If we pass this by for the day, would you work with the administration and maybe bifurcate this bill, make it a housing bill for the localities only, and try to start small a little bit and bring it back next week if it's okay with the chair? I think there's a path, but it does need some tightening up. There's no doubt about it. Maybe Mr. Clark can help you as well. Would that be okay, Delegate? Yes. All right, then I have a motion.
All right, Delegate Krizek.
I move that we pass it by for the day.
Moved in second, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, your bills are for the day. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Delegate Cohen, you have House Bill 1803.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. First, I'd like to ask to move the amendment, and I do have hard copies available if anybody would like it.
Do we have a motion to move? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, the amendments are before us. Delegate Cohen, if you can explain.
Yes, I'd be happy to. The amendment strikes the last line, which was of concern to the Department of Human Resources. And so it literally just strikes the last line of the bill.
Okay. Thank you, Delegate. And if you can go ahead and, if no one has any questions about the amendment, we maybe just hear about your bill in general and go from there.
Thank you. 1803 directs the Department of Human Resource Management to convene a stakeholder advisory group to provide advice to the department on establishing a career group and any other necessary associated defined roles within the Health and Human Services occupational family for licensed behavior analysts employed by the Commonwealth. This bill directs the advisory group to submit its findings and recommendations to the department no later than November 1st, 2025. This seeks to remedy, we were brought this bill by licensed behavior analysts who, depending on what department they're working for, they may be in a different career group. And so the goal was to get one career group for licensed behavior analysts to make sure that their role is similar at whatever department they're working in. And so then to ensure that if there was a base for all of our licensed behavior analysts, that then anything they were doing additionally, maybe they're in, a medical role, or maybe they're working with Department of Corrections that is in a role that might be a little more a little more crisis management. And so that would typically come with a higher bump in pay to be able to work in Department of Corrections or Department of Justice. And so we want to make sure, like so many the vast majority of our other careers, that they're all contained in the same career group. And I have some folks who are much more eloquent than I to be able to explain where this bill's coming from. Delegate Fowler says, please, someone explain it better than Laura Jane.
Any questions from the committee before we hear that testimony? All right, seeing none, anyone in favor of the bill?
Hi, my name is Christy Evanko, and I'm a licensed behavior analyst. And behavior analysts were first licensed in the Commonwealth in 2012, so we're a newer profession. This is just kind of another area in the code. We've been probably bringing you laws every year since then, finding places in the code where we feel like we should fit, but we aren't. We do have people who are working in state offices, but they're confused kind of as to how to hire them, how to put out the title, because there's no job group for them. So we would just like to put together this work group, talk about what it is that we do and how we fit into the state offices. We're a growth profession. We're growing exponentially each year, and so we hope to bring more behavior analysts in, but if there's no room for them to fit, it's harder. So we really thank the delegate for championing for us. You did a great job, actually, speaking about it. But
thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Hearing none. Anyone else here to speak in favor? And is there anyone opposed? Any motions from the committee?
Move to report.
Moved and seconded to report the bill. Clerk will open the roll. Clerk will close the roll, and the bill passes 5-2. Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you very much.
And I believe we're cleared all the patrons that aren't on the committee, so Delegate Campbell, and you're welcome to stay in your seat there if you wish.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So before you now is House Bill 1578. It also has an identical companion in the Senate, Senate Bill 885, which is being carried by Senator Perry. This would add the Behavioral Health Commission to the list of entities that the Office of the Inspector General must keep informed about problems in state psychiatric facilities. What this bill does is it gives the Office of the State Inspector General the power to inspect, monitor, and make recommendations to improve state facilities that deliver psychiatric services. The bill would accomplish one simple goal. Starting on line 35, we would amend the code by adding the Behavioral Health Commission to the list of entities that the OSIG must keep informed about significant problems, abuses, and deficiencies in state facilities with private providers of behavioral health services. Currently, OSIG is only required to report these problems on progress of implementing corrective actions to the General Assembly and the Joint Commission on Health. The reason we think this is important, in the past, the Joint Commission of Healthcare had a behavioral health subcommittee, and that was the primary legislative commission charged with studying these issues. Since its creation in 2021, the Behavioral Health Commission has taken on this role and is now the lead legislative entity commissioned with studying and overseeing the behavioral health system. I'm on the Behavioral Health Commission, and during public comments sections at a lot of our meetings, our constituents have increasingly raised concerns about the health and human rights violations that could be occurring in state facilities and that they believe are occurring with private providers. Having a more direct access to the OSIG investigations into the facilities would help our members to be able to better understand these issues that are occurring and how the providers are addressing those. I'd be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Delegate. Any questions from the committee? Delegate Griesek.
I have a motion. The proper time.
Let's hear from this relatively cleared out room now. Might be a sign. If there's anyone in the room that would like to speak in favor of this bill, and if there's anyone in the room who would like to speak in opposition to this bill. All right, Delegate Griesek, it's the appropriate time.
I think we got a good presentation there. I move to report.
It's been moved and seconded to report the bill. The clerk will open the roll. Yeah, vote for your bill, Delegate. You can vote for your own bill, yes, ma'am. And sometimes it's the one that counts most. Oh, you're believing that? You're believing him? Oh, no. Oh.
Freshman hazing still going on.
It's still going on. I know. This is not your freshman year. All right, the clerk will close the roll, and your bill passes 7-0. Thank you. Congratulations. All right. I believe there is no other business before our subcommittee. So do we have a motion? Yep. And it's been seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.